Hey, true believers. Today we are going over Gold Key Comics Beneath the Planet of the Apes. And being a comic, or should I say a movie adaptation, this was an excellent comic book. And I think the one thing that really, movie aside and just kind of add a little anecdote here, that really kind of interests me is Gold Key Comics. I did a little research on them as I was reading this just because I've seen so many of them, and I didn't really know much about them from what I understand, and if I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments because I always like to be educated, is it was Dell Comics, and then they split off and did, what was it, Western Publications or Western Comics, and then they kind of did a subdivision, which was Gold Key. And Gold Key did a lot of cartoon comics like DuckTales, Daffy Duck, etc., so forth. And then the way, like, come the 70s, and what happened with the company in terms of not being able to go with the times and how they sort of went into bankruptcy. And now, surprisingly, that they're actually trying to come back because someone bought the company and is trying to re-release a lot of the titles in the vein of how these comics looked back in the day. I hope that it thrives, and if they do start releasing titles, I'd love to check them out. But it's a very interesting history. If you want to know more, let me know, and maybe I'll sit down and maybe do a full video of it on After Dark or something. But I just wanted to kind of give some, thought into what Gold Key's comics was back in the 70s. This book particularly, the print date was December 1970. And I'm a little disappointed because it says Ape protest poster, 25 cents inside. Someone took the poster! Whoever originally owned this. I'm like, come on. But you gotta think, back in the day, people didn't think of these as collector's items. They just saw them as funny pages that you would read, roll them up in your back pocket, and then jump on your bike and then go to your buddy's house. So, at least being able to see these and have, yeah, it's banged up, the pages are weathered, but just to still have this intact for the most part, I can't complain. So diving in, this is Beneath the Planet of the Apes is a direct sequel to the original Planet of the Apes with Charlton Heston. And I love how here inside, they actually give you stills from the movies. Now, another thing that I've never really been able to correctly wrap around in my mind is when they do a comic book adaptation, does it release congruently with the movie or is it before to get you hyped? I can never tell because whenever I was given like adaptation books when I was a kid, it was already long after the movie had been out. So I'm not 100% sure on that. And another thing, movie aside, that kind of irks my gurk is here we open it up. It'll tell you, who's producing it, who wrote it, blah, 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 for the movie. But nowhere in here could I find artist, writer credits. The only closest thing I could find was on the Planet of the Apes Wikipedia fandom page. And they said the writer, artist, and colorist was Alberto Giolitti. And then like for cover artists, etc., so forth, it just said unknown, which, as we just saw, is a bunch of stills from the movie, kind of. But these are really beautiful adapt paintings, or at least I think these are paintings, unless that's just the real old school 70, well, not 16 millimeter. What did they shoot back in the day? Oh, I'm having a brain fart this morning, guys. But I think these are actually stills from the movie. Or they could be paintings, let me know. But we open up, and here's Nova and Taylor, who I can't remember who Nova was played by, but the Taylor was Charlton Heston. And this is directly after the famous scene on the beach where they see the Statue of Liberty, and he's like, they blew it up! They blew it up! And so they're escaping, trying to find this place called the, what is it? Well, they're kind of going into what's called the Forbidden Zone because they're trying to find somewhere where they can repopulate. And, Heston here, Taylor saying, I'm on Earth. An Earth destroyed and defiled by the hand of man. Where do we go from here, Nova? Are we the only free humans left on this planet? Do we found a human colony and hope for kids that they'll learn to talk better sense than the apes? And again, pre-Star Wars science fiction. Yes, Star Wars really did set a precedence in terms of drama, action, and whatnot. But back here, a lot of this sci-fi before that, and there were still some afterwards, 80s, 90s, like Total Recall, The Running Man, and movies of that regard. But they weren't held as in high regard as back in the day, like Soylent Green, etc., so forth, where it was dystopian futures, the caution of technology, AI, and what mankind could do. And these movies kind of set up ideas that would later be used, like in Blade Runner, Terminator, etc., so forth. And so anyway, as they're trying to find a place to settle down, the Earth all of a sudden just erupts with fire, lightning, rain, and they're terrified because it's like no matter which way they go, they're boxed in. And I love the artwork here. It just very much reminds me of something you'd see from like Jack Kirby, or during this era it would be like either Sal Buscema or John Buscema. And it just has that very 70s colors. Because remember again, this was back before digital coloring, 3D modeling. You had to study anatomy, color palettes to really get this type of form. And that's, again, I've said this 1,000 times and I'll say it 1,000 times more. That's why these older books I hold in high regard, because this was all from the mind. Yeah, you can use photographs, or you can maybe trace some photographs, but still, at the end of the day, hand inking, hand coloring to really get that anatomy look. And so from what I understand with Beneath the Planet of the Apes, because it's been a dog's age since I've seen the movie, Charlton Heston plays more of a supporting role. Taylor immediately kind of disappears from the plot. Nova takes off to try to find who are the two apes. Zira and Cornelius were the ones that kind of helped them escape. So she's off to go find them. And then here we find another spaceship has crashed on this Earth, which is what, the year 3595 or something like that. And this is Britt. And they were sent off to try to find Taylor, who, of course, obviously disappeared in the first film. And Britt sees his skipper pass away. And the artwork here, just absolutely beautiful. And he eventually runs into Nova, sees Taylor's dog tags around her neck. And he senses that he can trust her, so he follows her back to the ape city. And here Britt is introduced to seeing what is happening to humans in this timeline. And again, the social commentary in these films, they focused on issues that were happening at the time. And yes, sometimes they could be on the nose, like you see peace and freedom, unite in peace, don't vote for war. But still, it didn't feel like it was bashing you over the head. It was there, but it added depth, and it was organic, because we had these people who were against this warmongering chief, who's Ursus, I believe is his name. And he goes, "Greeting members of the city Citizens Council. I am a simple soldier, and when I became your army commander, what I saw broke my heart. I found our country infected by those parasites, humans." And again, when it comes to war, the way that a lot of leaders and influencers will try to demonize another side is to make them seem like other. And so here, it's the apes that are trying to make the humans seem like other and lesser, so that what they do they can justify. And of course, Zira and Cornelius, they're trying to lay low because they almost got killed in the first film for their ideologies, and it was Dr. Zaus that saved them. Even though Zaus helped them, and he's kind of a sympathizer to a degree, he still has no love for humans. Now again, look at the artwork here. Again, all these people agreeing with Ursus, which in terms of the commentary, it's very sad to see. But I was really taken aback by, again, the artwork. Look at how the hair, all hand done. Just imagine how long these panels would have taken. Just absolutely beautiful. Now moving the plot forward, Cornelius and Zira help Brett and Nova. And still, even though they kind of point them in the direction that they need to go to find Taylor, which is the Forbidden City, which Ursus wants to invade because the point of this film is that their what do you call it, crops and places where they can grow food and whatnot is starting to dwindle. And so they want to head out into the Forbidden Zone to open up new places for food. It's just, here seeing Nova and Brett captured, it's just like, God, it's just one bad day after one bad day. And then again, Zero comes to their rescue, helps them get away. And now before we continue into the next part of the book, this right here is where that poster insert should have been. And you can see where someone actually pried the staples up to pull the book out. Now, from what I understand in terms of collecting, you never want to replace the staples, and I don't really want to push those down, so I'm just going to leave it as is. But I was just kind of like, damn, I wish that poster was in there. Because I looked at it on eBay, and it's a really nice-looking piece. It's from the film, obviously, but still, very cool idea. Now we come to find out that the Forbidden Zone is Queensboro. So that's one of the boroughs of New York. This is Queens. He's like, this was my city, my home, where I worked and lived. What happened? Did we finally do it? It's all some mad dream, a terrible, hopeless nightmare. And I think, don't judge me on this, I think a lot of these films, the reason they focused on dystopian nightmares and did we finally do it is this was during the Cold War. We had the U.S. point at Russia, Russia point at the U.S., which 2022. That's what a lot of these films kind of poked at, was the tension of, are we going to get killed? That's why a lot of kids back in the day, they would always have air raid training. Get under your desk, get in the doorway, and that's supposed to protect you from radiation. Yeah, right. Anyway, we come to find out there's these people that are living underneath the cities of destroyed New York. And they go, I reveal my inmost self to my God. Is this God an atom bomb? The heavens declare the glory of the bomb. Now, for those of you that are watching this and you're like, hey, that seems kind of familiar, I'm wondering if this was Bethesda's inspiration to make the Children of the Atom in Fallout 3, because that was their god, was radiation bombs, especially in of course it eludes me now that I'm recording, but the main city that you enter after you exit the vault in Fallout 3, and there's that big old atom bomb in the middle of the city. I can't remember if it's called Nuka Town or something, but that reminded me of the Children of the Atom. And the reason that it even gets to be more familiar is you continue both in the movie, except here. There's one major difference between the Children of the Atom and Fallout, and here is you come to find out the people here have mutated enough to become like telepathic, so they're able to control people that get into their city. They can also project images, and that's where we kind of go full circle back to the beginning of the movie with the lightning, fire, and the ice, and we do get some really graphic imagery. Like, I'm going to skip past, we do find Taylor. There's something that happens that I don't want to give away, but in terms of graphic imagery, as the apes come to invade the Forbidden City, the Zios, he's trying to tell Ursus, he's like, be careful where we go, because even though I'm a man of science, I do have a healthy respect for the fear of the unknown. And here we see images of upside down crucified apes. Their God, the lawgiver, upside down on fire. And they're terrified of these images, but it doesn't stop them from invading the A-bomb's people's sanctum. And the way that both the movie and the comic end is just absolutely depressing. I'm going to leave it on this panel because I don't want to give any context away. I'm sure for those of you that have seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But still, it really kind of leaves it like, wow, that they really had the balls to go there. And those of you that are interested, if you've never seen these movies, I highly recommend checking them out. The first one was obviously called Planet of the Apes. The second one was Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and then the third one I believe was called Escape from Planet of the Apes, and I don't remember what the other two were. There was allegedly 5 of these movies. And from what I understand is this movie got ripped in the theater when it first came out. I don't know. And now it's had time to age. I think it was really, really good. Had some great ideas, heartbreaking moments, heartfelt moments, and it made you think. Again, when I was going back through Golden Key and talking about how they kind of didn't keep up with the times during the 70s, there was this one little thing that I did notice that jumped out that said a lot of people, like kids, stopped buying comics because they said, why would they want to buy the characters in book when they could just watch them on TV for free? And that kind of goes back to the mission of our club, Comictopia, is the idea is using pop culture to inspire people to read, to encourage that love of literacy. Because there's a lot of people that you notice, you'll say, hey, have you ever read this book? It's really good. And they go, nah, I'll just wait for the movie. And I understand that to a degree. But if you're not checking out, the novel or the comic, you're missing out on a whole rich history that, for time constraints gets chopped out, or if it's a subpar writer, destroys the ambiance of what the book or the comic may have originally intended. So that's why I always say, please always check out the book. It's always going to be a great read, and 99.9% of the time the book is always going to surpass what the movie has to offer. So with that said, guys, if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and see if they have any original copies of this, or if they have reprints, because I think it was Marvel or Dynamite that reprinted this. So let me know. I'm not 100% sure on that, but still check out the book in any way that you can. If you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little 8 bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below, or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.